Well, let's go on to Psalm 24. Makes sense. It's a. I keep thinking, this is my favorite. No, this is my favorite. No, well, this section of Psalms is all David's songs, poems that David had written. So let's just read. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it. The world and all its people belong to him. For he laid the earth's foundation on the seas and built it on the ocean depths. Who may climb the mountain of the Lord? Who may stand in his holy place? Only those whose hands and hearts are pure, who do not worship idols and never tell lies. They will receive the Lord's blessing and have a right relationship with God, their Savior. Such people may seek you and worship in your presence, O God of Jacob. Open up, ancient gates, open up, ancient doors, and let the King of glory enter. Who is the King of glory? The Lord strong and mighty, the Lord invincible in battle. Open up, ancient gates, open up, ancient doors, and let the King of glory enter. Who is the King of glory? The Lord of heaven's armies. He is the King of glory. It's a psalm of praise, and I don't want to go. I have this tendency to get so locked in on the trees that I lose sight of the forest. I don't want to do that here, but I do want to look at some of the trees. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it. Okay, now that is not just metaphorical. It is literally true. And David goes on to say, here's why. Because the world and all its people belong to him. For he laid the earth's foundation on the seas and built it on the ocean depths. In other words, he owns it because he created it. Okay, now, I'm in a season of life, and it may not get much better from here on, but I'm in a season of life where I've got to remind myself pretty routinely that the earth and everything in it belongs to the Lord. And one of the reasons is, if I can keep that in mind, if I can keep it in mind that the earth and everything in it are his, it should give me confidence that he can and will provide for what I need, all of what I need. Financially, is it weird to think, I don't think it is, but maybe it is, that the billions that Soros is worth, the billions that Bill Gates is worth, the billions that, how many billionaires are there in the world? A lot. It's not their money. Then now they most of them, I think, from what I read, of course I don't know any billionaires, but from what I read, most of these billionaires, they treat their money as if it were theirs. What are they? Yeah. But it's not. Because even what they have as a result of their diligence or their wise investment or the windfall, however they acquired their wealth, it's not theirs. It's God's. Oh, really? I sometimes wonder, what if all of those billionaires were convinced that what they have acquired is not theirs, but God's? Would that change the world? Oh, undoubtedly it would. But that's the wrong question. The question is, if I truly believed, if I was fully convinced that all I have acquired, it ain't much, but all of it that I have and all of that passes through my hands is not mine. It's God's. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it. So there's this first aspect that comes to my mind is I can trust him to be my provision and my provider because he owns everything, right? Sometimes I think of you have to be kind of old or have been raised by a certain kind of parent anyway to remember the old Magnum PI, not the new one. And I'm not saying the new one's bad, but the old one where Thomas Magnum essentially had all his needs met by at that point he was only a millionaire. The economy was not quite so big, I guess. Anyway, millionaire author Robin Masters on his estate in Hawaii. To the degree they had a wonderful place to live, rent-free, and he just went through Ferraris like about every other episode. All of his needs were met. And I think, as silly as it might sound, I think I'm Magnum. Only in the respect of the aspect of my needs are met. I am provided for by the guy who owns everything. Okay, the second thing is, because the earth is the Lord's and everything in it, that I don't own anything. It means I am a steward of all that God has provided me. And what does a steward do? I'm going to go back to Magnum PI. The steward in that whole scenario, the whole plot line, who was the steward? Well, I don't think Thomas Magnum was. And Robin Masters wasn't. I mean, he was the owner. The steward was Higgins, who was a buttoned-down, tight, seemingly rigid individual with a British military training and background. Well, what was his job? His job was to take care of what was owned by Robin Masters as if he, Higgins, was the owner himself. I am commissioned by the owner, the one who owns everything that is in the earth, on it and in it, to steward those resources as best I can. Jesus tells a parable of 3 servants. The master is going away for whatever reason for an extended period of time, and he brings one servant in and gives him 5 talents. We use the word talent referring to artistic ability or some kind of innate ability. But this was a measure of wealth. And a talent, it essentially equaled a lifetime of income. We're talking lots of money, okay? We gave him 5 talents and said, steward this while I'm gone. Brought in another servant, gave him 2 talents, steward this while I'm gone. And he brought in a third servant and said, here's 1 talent, steward it until I return. Well, the guy with 5, he invested it, and when the owner came back, when in Jesus' terminology, the master came back, he had acquired 5 more talents, so that there now was a total of 10. The second servant, who was given 2 talents, on a percentage basis, he did really even better than the first guy, although the total number was half. He took 2 and had 5 when the master returned. To both of these servants, the word from the master was the same. You have done great. Now, join me in fellowship and really reward. That's a gross paraphrase, but then the third guy comes in. He was given 1, remember? And he said, well, here's your 1. I buried it because I know you're a harsh master. You reap where you do not sow. And I just didn't want to lose the one you entrusted me with. Well, the master was not very happy with that. And as a matter of fact, he was quite unhappy. Why? Because that's, and now I'm trying to gather as much meaning out of that story as I can. And what I get is, to steward well does not just mean don't lose it. It means make as much of it as you can. Okay, my stewardship of my life is not about, I don't want to, I got to be very conservative. I've got to be defensive. I've got to be so careful. That's not a good way to live. If I'm going to steward my life in a sense, in the way that these, 5, 2, and 1 talent guys were commissioned to steward their master's wealth, I got to make the most of it as best I can. And there will always be risk involved in that. To steward well requires that I take intelligent risks in order to make the most of what has been entrusted to me. Question. And this is purely about your individual life, not anybody else's. How does it make you feel? How do you feel about the idea of stewarding your life? And the concept that in order to steward your life well, you've got to take risks. How's that strike you? The older I get, the less I want to take risks. Is this a sin? I don't think so, but I think it's something I have to guard against, because if I live my whole life trying to mitigate risk, you don't move forward in that way. You get stuck. And at 69 years old, I'm looking down the gun barrel of 70. I don't want to get stuck that way. I don't want to take stupid risks. Well, here's one of the good things about being an old person. I kind of know what a stupid risk looks like, smells like, feels like. I don't have to do that, but to not risk at all, I don't want to live that way. I tend to be risk averse. I don't want to get stuck in that. I want to steward my life well, because the owner owns everything in and on the earth. That includes me. I want to steward my life according to his design, by the power of his grace. And there is about a 2.5 hour concept right there. But I'm at 14:48 and I'm going to quit. I'll see you next time on So Care with Stevie Boy.